sun is setting and so is 2020, and somebody asked me on Instagram the other day to talk about the books that I've been reading. So I thought, okay, why not, let's do that. Let's talk about some books. I went back to my planner, and I checked out this cute bookshelf layout that I'd done at the start of the year, and I realized I'd read 36 books this year, which might be too much for some people and might be too little for some people, but I know the truth. This is actually most of the books, at least half of the books, are books that I've read in 1 or 2 days, like literally devoured them, because they're just like really fun, really good books. I don't want to call it guilty pleasure, but kind of like guilty pleasure. The first book I read this year was The Journey Home by Radhanath Swami, autobiography of an American Swami, and obviously this was a little bit more on the spiritual side, but I don't want to limit it to just that. This is actually kind of fun to read because it's kind of like an adventure. You see him going through different places in the first half of the book and finally reaching India and then moving around India, and it just, I think, gives you a lot of perspective. Like, it sounds weird to say it, but I think it just really made me more calmer, sweeter, nicer. Just like, I know it feels weird to say it. The next book I read was Norwegian Wood by Murakami, and I know a lot of people love this book and have read the book. I actually read it back in 9th grade and I didn't understand more than half of it. I don't know why I was reading it. I was just reading it for the sake of it because apparently it was cool to read Murakami in 9th grade. But this time when I read it, I understood it so much better, and obviously, like, I loved it. I love Murakami because of the way he writes, and it just has a way of like making you feel all the feelings in just a lot of ordinary things. It's not like in the book there's some great adventure going on, but even in the everyday things with some events happening in the protagonist's lives, like, really takes you in and makes you feel all those feels. I feel like I've said feels so many times, but I'm really just feeling it. And that's why I think he is so inspiring, Murakami, because I want to be able to do that. I want people to feel, think. Oh my god, this sounded so wrong. I'm gonna shut up. The next book I read was A Man Called Ove. I don't have the physical copy because I read it online. Again, this is such a wonderful book. I read it as part of the Happy Shiny Book Club, which is an Instagram page where they pick a book every month by a curator, I think, and then people follow along and read that book that month, and at the end of the month they have a Instagram live or something where they discuss the book, and I think that's such a cool place to be and engage with. Anyway, that out of the way, A Man Called Ove is about this like old man, grumpy old man. It's just so endearing. He's not like the most likable character, but I think those are the things that make him likable. Those little quirks that he has and the personality that he has, and finding out that actually he's this really soft man, and just really lovely read. The next book I read was The Sun Is Also a Star, which again I don't have a physical copy of. I read it online, but this is about two people who meet in New York, I think, on a day, like very randomly, and this whole book takes place in one day, and these two people come from really different backgrounds, and there's a lot going on in each person's lives. I think the girl is going to get deported at the end of the day, and she's trying to figure out some way where she can not get deported, and it's such an interesting situation and lots of things going on, and the whole day is basically them having a conversation and getting to know each other and kind of falling in love with each other. It's a lot like the Before series, Before Sunrise, Before Midnight, that kind of a thing, where they're just talking a lot, and it's so interesting to hear them talk about these things because there are a lot of relatable older teenage stuff. And speaking of romance, let me tell you about 2 romance novels that I read this year amongst all the others. If you want to know about the others, just DM me on Instagram. I'll tell you all about it. The first one is The Hating Game, which I've read a lot of times before, and if you are into enemies to lovers, then you need to read this book. It's one of the best in the trope of enemies to lovers. I'm not going to say anything more. It's an office kind of romance. The second one is Beach Read, which was a big release this year. People were so much into Beach Read. It's about 2 writers. One is a nice, like, flowery kind of writer, and the other is like sort of a darker writer. Not darker, I mean just like a more grumpy writer. And both of them become neighbors at a beach and things happen. That's the best way to describe books. They meet and things happen. The next book is Looking for Alaska by John Green. I read it a few years ago, and this is one of those books that I keep coming back to every year. And I definitely feel like this is one of the best is the best John Green book. I know a lot of people will disagree because they love The Fault in Our Stars, but I love this way more than The Fault in Our Stars. I think what John Green is able to do in Looking for Alaska is that he's able to make the most ordinary of situations and stories and characters relatable, and also make you feel things and feel emotions through these people and stories. And I think that is way more commendable than The Fault in Our Stars, because The Fault in Our Stars, although I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I feel like it's a very easy route to take, even though the story is amazing. But it's just by the nature of the story that it's a sad story. People have an illness in it. You don't know how much longer these two characters have with each other. So by the nature of it, it makes you tear up, it makes you cry, it makes you emotional. But if an author, from an author's perspective or from the writing perspective, from art perspective, if they're able to do it with the most ordinary of situations, I wouldn't say ordinary because they're having a lot of adventures in this, but from more relatable characters, if they're able to make you feel all of those things, then I think that's just amazing. Okay, I'm gonna stop my rant now, but the book is about Miles, who goes to a boarding school and he meets new people and new friends and sort of his adventures in this place. I'll quickly share 3 things that I really like in the book. One is a quote which is called, "You shall love your crooked neighbor with your crooked heart." And I just love this quote so much. I think it's so lovely. The second is kind of like a paragraph in the book, which is, "I wanted so badly to lie down next to her on the couch, to wrap my arms around her and sleep, not fuck like in those movies, not even have sex, just sleep together in the most innocent sense of the phrase. But I lacked the courage, and she had a boyfriend, and I was gawky, and she was gorgeous, and I was hopelessly boring, and she was endlessly fascinating. So I walked back to my room and collapsed on the bottom bunk, thinking that if people were rain, I was drizzle and she was a hurricane." Oh, love that. I'm pretty sure if you've read the book, then you love this line from the book. And the third thing is not a quote or a line, but something that Miles in Alaska, the interesting friend that he makes at the school, they talk about throughout the book, where she asks him, "How do we ever get out of the labyrinth of suffering?" And it's just a quote that she's read by somebody in some book. But that's such an interesting question to ask. Especially as somebody who's entering adulthood, or just as a human in general. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but just from reading the book, from my own thinking and experiences, the only way to get out of the labyrinth of suffering is to know that it exists, which basically means like acceptance and forgiveness. And I think that's so important, especially in a year like 2020, where there has been so much suffering. And yeah, I don't want to get like all senti and all of that, but something to think about. It's such a lovely book. Okay, so those were some of the books that I read this year, and now I'm going to read Think Like a Monk, like from Jay Shetty. I'm excited to read it, and I'm going to read The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. That also I'm excited for. Would you like some tea with a drop of lemon in it and some cookies? Oh, cookies, how lovely. Okay, so as you guys might not know, I'm quite into baking, and the other day I was talking to my friend again, and he was like, "Why don't you ever do a baking video, like where you show us how to make something?" And I thought, okay, why not, let's do that now. So I'm gonna show you guys how to make the most delicious hot cookie that you can be making in the microwave in 1 minute, and it is so simple, and it's all ingredients that you have in your pantry. So it's really good, guys. You'll thank me later. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to take 1.5 teaspoon of butter. Okay, so I've melted the butter in the microwave. Now we have to put 1 3/4 tablespoons of sugar, 1 and 1 drop of milk. And now just to put 1/3 cup plus half tablespoon of maida. So I'm gonna get it. Okay, here I have the maida. 1/3, where is the array? 1/3 cup plus half tablespoon. Guys, you have to be precise, okay? Precision is everything. You know what's funny is how when you see all these cooking shows and tutorials, they have everything, all the ingredients removed in this nice like bowls and stuff, and I'm just like, okay, let's take maida and half more. Now we have to put 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda, which I don't know for the life of me how I will ever be able to measure, so I'm just gonna take a pinch of baking soda. Okay, and then it says in the recipe that a pinch of salt to add, but Amul butter, the butter that we use is already salted, so I'm not going to do that. And now we just need to mix it. We just need to mix it all, and it's going to be a little thick and difficult to mix. So I'm going to get my muscles, use my muscles. This is not going to happen just right away. So I'm going to go out of the recipe and put a little bit of milk. Who follows recipes? I forgot to mention earlier, but this is actually not my recipe. I just want to say that this is from a channel called Emma's Goodies, which is so amazing. You guys must follow Emma's Goodies because she makes like such accessible desserts, like which are really easy to make, like microwavable stuff. And she's just, her videos are always so positive just because the way she sounds and everything. So it's amazing to just listen to her. Okay, so I've kind of like mixed it and made it into like this thing, which I don't know what to call because I'm not a food whatever thing. And now we need to add some chocolate chips, but I don't have chocolate chips because in India you for some reason cannot find easily chocolate chips. So I use this Amul dark chocolate which I've taken here, and I'm gonna chop it up. This is, by the way, just amazing dark chocolate, and Amul has done a really good job with the distribution. So you can find it almost anywhere. So I'm gonna now very painfully just chop up this chocolate. This is what it looks like. And now I'm gonna take some of it in the mixture. I'm gonna put it in the mixture, at least like half of it, and then mix it. This has become a bit more wet than it should become wet because I didn't follow the recipe and I added a little bit more milk. Drop of milk out of the recipe and put a little bit of milk. Precision is everything. Follow the recipe next time. So that's done, and now we need some parchment paper. Take this, and it's actually supposed to be less soggier than it looks in this. So I've taken all of that over here, and now I'm going to take some more chocolate chips and put it on this. And you have to eat some of it. That's the rule. You have to eat. And now I'm going to keep this in the microwave for 1 minute. It actually can take anywhere between 1 minute and 15 seconds depending on your microwave power. And while that waits, I'm gonna clear up everything because that's like a game I play against time. Oh, it's done.
Hello, cookie!
It's done. That's the cookie. It looks a little blonde. Summer! Look at that. Time to eat it. Welcome. How is it? I'm gonna eat my piece. Oh.
Yeah, they're amazing!
Wow.
Now these two pieces are
I forgot to say it earlier, but you have to eat this cookie hot because if it gets cold, then it doesn't taste as good. I mean, it doesn't taste good at all. So you have to eat it hot. So that was the video. If you guys enjoyed watching it, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I shall see you next time. Bye.